Hey guys, so I just wanted to talk about Exosister real quick. Well, two cards mostly, but we'll get to that. So Exosister Carpe Divum. Neither player can target Exosister monsters you control with effects of monsters that were special summoned from the graveyard. You can only use each of the following effects of Exosister Carpe Divum once per turn. If you XYZ summon an Exosister monster, you can declare one card name, negate the activated effects, and effects on the field of cards with that original name until the end of this turn. When an attack is declared involving your Exosister monster, you can target one, spell trap your opponent controls, destroy it. So this card does a whole lot of stuff, and also nothing, all at the same time. It's kind of amazing. So, your Exosister monsters are not targetable by specifically monsters. And not just monsters, but monsters that were special summoned from the graveyard. So, that doesn't mean a whole lot, honestly, because non-targeting removal. Well, let's go with, like, for example, Doom King Balladed Rock. We can't target. Cool, I will just, use my non-target banish, for example. Okay. And I don't know what kind of extra deck monster would be special summoned from the graveyard. Like, that just shouldn't really happen in my opinion, so. That effect, I have no idea what this is going to protect you from, realistically. You can only use each of the following effects of Exosister Divum, and then, yes, if you XYZ summon an Exosister monster, so you would do that preferably on your opponent's turn, of course, then you can declare a card name, negate the activated effects and effects on the field of cards with that original name. So you can declare any one card name, so this can be a monster, a spell, or a trap. So this, honestly, is not that bad, like, to an extent, but XYZ summoning on your opponent's turn, that's actually awkward for this. At least you have the what's it called? Exosister's Magnifica. With Magnifica, that is now a little bit less awkward, but I guess you can use this to declare like Raigeki or like Droplet or something like that. It's kind of funky, but you can definitely do that. Or like, if you have some like good knowledge about your opponent's deck, you can declare like a key card. Like, let's say your opponent activates Branded Fusion, but there's no way for you to negate Branded Fusion. It's alright. You can still like declare Lubellion, and that will stop Mirror Jade from coming out, just for example. There are other probably more relevant cards, like playing Cheese Out is not entirely bad, for example, I guess. And then, like, on your own turn, you can just normally summon an Exosister and use this to deal with your opponent's cards. Like, if you know your opponent has a card because they searched it, this is actually not like entirely that bad of an effect. Like, Lily Boreas searching Therion Cross, that would be a card you know they have, Therion's Cross, in the back row, like, for sure, right? So, you can go ahead and declare a searched card, I guess. And that makes it, like, okay, I guess. And then it has the effect of when an attack is declared involving your Exosister monster, you can target a spell trap your opponent controls, destroy it. And both of these are hard once per turn, though, so whatever. Target a spell trap your opponent controls, destroy it. Like, this is kind of continuous, so you can do this, like, every single turn. So just because of that. That effect, not the worst, I guess. And there is an upside to this effect, actually. Well, unless your opponent's playing, like, Labyrinth and they set, like, a spell trap on your turn. Going second or going first, this effect is actually still decently, well, to an extent, relevant, because if your opponent is going first and they have back row, then you can just activate this card and pop that back row, right? And of course, if your opponent actually is going second and you are going first, then you can just pop a spell trap like during turn 3, which is still fine, because if this was all this card did, then it would be like incredibly way more mid, but just as an extra effect, that I don't see any like real issue with this. This card doesn't really do a whole lot by itself though. It really requires some setup, and it's kind of weird, but it's just like, this effect is like a prohibition, but like on field, which is weird. Kind of. Well, actually not even prohibition. This is closer to like maybe a skill drain, honestly. Because it only negates on field, so very strange. And then one of the weird cards, I think, like one of the really weird cards is I believe, which one was it? Ah, yeah. Exosister Asophil is pretty awkward, to an extent. Cannot be destroyed by the activated effects of monsters, special summon from the graveyard, which doesn't really matter. You can only use each of the following effects of Exosister Asophil once per turn. If this card is XYZ summoned using an Exosister monster's material, neither player can activate card effects in the graveyard this turn. You can detach one material from this card, then target one monster your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So, all of the effects on this card, they're like whatever, right? But we're mostly going to be focusing on this effect here, where neither player can activate card effects in the graveyard this turn. If it is XYZ summoned using an Exosister monster's material. So that effect is only for the turn, so if your opponent is going, well, Exosister Asophil won't be really relevant on your own turn, because if you activate Asophil effect, then it's already too late. Your opponent probably already did their special summoning from the graveyard, honestly. Like, if you're against a zombie player, for example, Doom King Ballard Rock would come out way before you can summon Asophil, so when exactly is it relevant to summon this monster here, Asophil? It'd be like probably on your opponent's turn. So how do you do that? The only way to do that is like with a Returnia or with a activation of your Exosister effect. So it's this effect here. If your opponent moves a card out of either graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon from your extra deck an Exosister XYZ monster using this face-up card you control as material. This is treated as an XYZ summon. So the effect is kind of weird because it's just a bit worse than Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller gives you like a better window of activation, arguably, in my opinion. And it is possible to, like, for example, just Raigeki on the spot. If let's see, what is the timing on Vadis? 800, Special summon both. So this can be done in, like, the standby, I guess. But you usually chain this to something, because the Exosister monsters are relatively weak. 100, 800, 400, 800, 300, 800, 1600, 800. So their defense and attack points are overall like pretty low. So if you just summon them raw, you know, it's just generally not good to do with the copy of Vadis. But if your opponent moves a card, of course, you'd be able to summon Asophil, but I don't think that that's really going to super happen. Unless you chain it to something, of course. So, like, don't get me wrong, this effect is pretty decent, but, like, if you use Vadis chaining to, like, a tier, then they would lose access to their graveyard effects. But the thing about that is they still get to activate one, right? So Asophiel's stat line is 2.1k, 1.8k, for example, and then Kalos is 2.3k, 1.2k. So you can just attack over Asophiel, but I guess on the bright side, if you specifically used Vadis to do this instead of, like, I don't know, maybe a Magnifica? Well, it depends how it works out, I guess. But if we go ahead and, like, Vadis, you will have another Exosister, which you can just go into Michaelis, which is decent, I guess. So it's kind of just a little weird, a little jank. And, like, Carpe Divum actually has some weird, like, this sort of anti-synergy in the sense, because it doesn't negate the graveyard. This actually just negates the field, which is strange. Doesn't really fit the theming of the deck. Or kind of just whack. And then with Returnia, this card is just good in general. So if you XYZ summoned this turn, you can banish a card your opponent controls. And this effect to XYZ summon an Exosister XYZ monster is kind of just weird because, like, assuming you have ways into Michaelis, right? Michaelis actually does not have a hard once per turn. So, kind of weird. But, Michaelis just can banish, like, multiple times during the same turn. Here, right? Oh wait, no, Michaelis does have a hard once per turn, right. But it kinda feels like it's not. I don't remember why I said that. Alright. It's because you can Michaelis and use Magnifica on the same turn. Yeah, I got confused there for a second. My bad on that one. So, Michaelis does have a hard once per turn, but Michaelis can activate a lot of times over the course of a duel, which is kind of funky. But I mean, they're just like on a, well, this is not an untargeted banish, but this is like not specific. Like Doom King specifically can only banish monsters. Michaelis can banish any card. So pretty strong effect, and of course Magnifica has this effect as well, right? Something similar. You banish a card your opponent controls. So the banish on Magnifica, Michaelis, and Returnia. They don't specify a monster or spell trap, so you can banish like spells or traps, which is just pretty insane. You get a lot of advantage on these, well, out of these cards here. More so than zombies, which is just depressing for zombies, I suppose. Like, well, actually, that's not what I meant to put in here. Well, with Felgrand, for example, Felgrand can only banish a monster your opponent controls or in their graveyard. Doom King as well, same kind of thing. Banish a monster from the field or graveyard. But with Michaelis, you get to banish any card. Like, you can banish a copy of Runic Fountain in field or graveyard or whatever. You can banish, well, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter. But let's say we, for some reason, have a funky chain going on. Let's say we have, guess it doesn't matter. We have just a monster resolving on the field, a monster effect. So then we go, like, chain Michaelis, and then somehow, like, well, actually, I guess, chain Havness. What you can go ahead and do here is, well, not with Michaelis, I guess, but with Doom King, since this targets, if it was untargeted, it could do the play I'm thinking of. So, chain Havness mill. So the Havness's mills will resolve on the same chain as the special summon. So we can special summon Havness, or in this scenario, if Havness is special summoned as, like, I guess chain 3, and then like Doom King chain 2, Doom King can banish like a milled tier card or whatever, and then negate whatever's triggering in the next part, or the next chain, when inevitably something triggers, right? But like if they milled specifically a spell trap, like for example Scream, we can't banish Scream to stop the ad, because this would happen in the next chain. So it's kind of funky like that. Because this is targeted, you cannot really do that. You have to select the target you're banishing, of course, before chain resolution. So that's kind of funky. But this is close in that it can almost do it. Exosister Magnifica is non-targeting, but it doesn't work in the graveyard, so it's a little off from being able to do that, which is kind of weird. I think that would be a pretty good play to have. But yeah, that's about everything I want to talk about regarding Exosister. Just some weird and jank stuff. Yeah. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.